Welcome. God bless you. It is good to be back with you again. I hope you're all doing well and living in the joy of the Lord. I want to do a short three-part series from Psalms chapter 74 and verse 9. I'm entitling this series, The Times of the Signs. Not the signs of the times, but the times of the signs. Let me quote that verse to you. We'll get going. We see not our signs. There is no more any prophet, neither is there any among us who knoweth how long. A sign is an indicator of a supernatural event. I'll explain a little bit more. I'll say that again later. But I went to Spurgeon's Treasury of David. He's recognized by most of theologians, commentators, as some of the best work on the Psalms, the historical background, all the things that go into understanding the Psalms. In this particular psalm, he said he was unsure of what Asaph wrote it, because we know that Asaph wrote it, but that almost became a trade name for those who led worship and wrote psalms throughout the history of Israel, especially in David's day. But it said it was hard to determine the time when it was written, possibly as late as the Maccabean period, which would have been just prior to Christ, but quite certainly post-captivity, post-Babylonian period. So if that, in that time frame, you've got kingdoms that rise and fall and just a lot of things that go on. He said it's just very hard to determine, but he said it is a prophetic psalm and it's intended for use in troubles foreseen, regardless the times. And I thought that was interesting. So I think it is, well, many of the Psalms, all the Psalms, we can take and apply them and be blessed and benefit from the Psalms, even in the church age. So the times of the signs. God at times would give indicators of supernatural events. And until the flood, there wasn't many signs. Those wouldn't be considered as times of the signs. Noah, yes. Okay? And then after Noah, not really many indicators of it. Signs were something that characterized that time. You get to Moses, from the burning bush, the voice, the commissioning, put your hand in, leprous, rod, snake. Those began to be indicators of a supernatural event for a time period where there would be signs. When Moses went to Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go," the Lord said, "Let my people go." He said, "Who is the Lord that I, Pharaoh, king of all Egypt, should obey his voice?" And God says, "I'm going to take his hard heart and harden it as well. And I'm going to show my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt, and they will know that I am the Lord." And you know, the frogs, flies, the Nile, all the signs that went on. Even when Moses led the children of Israel out of Egypt, the Red Sea, that's an indicator of a supernatural event. The water from the rock, the bread from heaven, the quail, all the things that happened during those times, it was the times of the signs. Those were indicators of supernatural events. But by the time you get, Moses has passed now, Joshua goes up to the Jordan dries up, they cross over. Signs, indicators of supernatural events. Jericho, one Jericho. Ai was not a Jericho. And when they conquered the rest of the land of Canaan, they did it by the edge of the sword. They had to have strategy. They had to have plannings. The times changed. You will see signs, but periodically, one here, one Hezekiah has, and some of the others had signs, but they didn't characterize the times. When you get to Jesus, the signs of the times, can I tell you something? In the fullness of time, the signs began to happen with Jesus. The miracles, the things that he did. In Matthew chapter 16, the Pharisees and Sadducees come to Jesus and said, "Show us a sign from heaven," Matthew 16:1. And he answered and said to them, "When it is evening, you say, it will be fair weather tomorrow, because the sky is red. And in the morning, it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and overcast. You hypocrites, you can discern the face of the sky, but cannot discern the signs of the times." The times are going to have signs in them. How many more signs? Jesus said, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. How many more signs did they need? He's raising the dead, calming the storms, feeding the multitudes, cleansing, healing leprosy, giving sight to the blind, hearing to the deaf, speech to the dumb, mobility to the lame. All of these things those were the times of the signs. And there were some in the days of the early church and apostles, but eventually those times changed. They didn't characterize that. I want to give you one sign to provoke us to think, could we be living in the times of the signs? May 14th, 1948, Israel declared itself to be a nation fulfilling 2,500 years of prophecy that one day that would happen. I mean, the best argument for God is Israel. God's argument for God is Israel. What he promised them, he is doing, has done. This was in Isaiah chapter 66 and verse 8, it says this, shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day, or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion travails, she brought forth her children. What one nation is born in a day? Israel. When we were in Israel, I had the privilege of preaching at Megiddo, which overlooks the valley of Megiddo, where another battle one day. Probably more battles have been fought there than any place else in the world. I mean, just Israel and army after army has fought in this valley. And you're standing up here and you're looking down over the valley of Megiddo. And I was asked to speak there. So our guide, who's a Jewish, Israeli-born Jew, a Messianic Jew, he gets a little break, so he gets behind the tour group and he sits on kind of a rock wall, and I'm looking out over him past the group into Megiddo. And I felt like I needed to share Ezekiel chapter 37. I had memorized that. The hand of the Lord is upon me, because he hath, the hand of the Lord is upon me. I think it starts out, the Spirit of the Lord. No, the hand of the Lord is upon me, and carried me out in the Spirit of the Lord, and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones. And he caused me to pass by them round about, and lo, there were very many in the open valley. And behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. And the Spirit said to him, Son of man, can these bones live? The Lord said to him. And he said, O Lord God, thou knowest. He takes him down through the valley of dry bones. When I ended verse 10, I said, Ezekiel is commanded to prophesy. So I prophesied as he commanded me. And breath came into them, and they lived and stood upon their feet, an exceedingly great army. As I quoted that, I ended by saying that prophecy was fulfilled May 14th, 1948. Our Jewish guide, sitting on the back of the wall, slid off the wall and went like this. Yes. He understood that prophecy was fulfilled in that day. Could that change the times in which we live? Could it be times now of the signs? In Matthew 24:35 it says this, heaven and earth shall pass away. There is an end coming. My word shall not pass away. But of that day, when heaven and earth pass, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of God, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so also shall the coming of the Son of Man be. The days of Noah. If you went to Genesis chapter 6, God describes the days of Noah. Eating, drinking, marrying, giving in marriage. But the earth was filled with corruption and violence. I think those two commodities, if nothing else, characterize the times in which we find ourselves living. I'm going to stop there. I want us to think about the times, because I don't live in another time. This is where I get my 70, is in these times. May 14th, 1948 on, I've been alive. I want to make a closing comment. Number one, we see not our signs. Why don't we see our signs? Possibly these are not the times of the signs. You think about that. And number two, I close my eyes. I can't see a thing. We've either closed our eyes or these are not the times of the signs. I want to quote to you this verse, this section here, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 1 through 4, or thereabouts. But of the times and seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you, for yourselves know perfectly the day of the Lord so cometh like a thief in the night. For when they shall say unto you, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them like travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in the darkness, that day, this day of the Lord, that day should overtake you. We should be aware of that. We should be somewhat conscious of the times in which we find ourselves living. Well, we'll pick up from there next time, but until then, Hebrews 10:35 through 37, cast not away therefore your confidence, which hath great recompense of reward. For ye have need of patience, that after you've done the will of God, you will inherit the promises. And yet a little while, and he that shall come will come, and will not tarry. God bless you.